I used to believe that every love story deserved a perfect beginning, soft music, blooming flowers, and the scent of forever in the air. When Daniel proposed to me, beneath a canopy of twinkling lights and trembling stars, I thought my life had finally aligned with every romantic dream I'd ever dared to have. His hands shook as he slid the ring on my finger, and I remember thinking how beautifully imperfect that moment was. It wasn't just a proposal. It was a promise, a vow that our love could weather anything. For a while it did. Daniel was gentle, thoughtful, and endlessly patient. He remembered the tiniest things about me, how I hated cold coffee, how I always hummed when nervous, how I cried at sad commercials. He was the kind of man who'd stop the car just to let me chase sunsets. With him, life felt like poetry written in laughter and quiet moments. But then there was Margaret, his mother. The first time I met her, she looked at me like I was a puzzle missing too many pieces. Her smile was polite, but her eyes were sharp. I offered her flowers, my favorite lilies, but she didn't even reach to take them. "You didn't have to trouble yourself," she said coolly, setting them aside. I tried not to take it personally. She'd raised Daniel alone after his father passed, and I understood that kind of bond, the fierce love of a mother who had made her son her whole world. Still, there was something in her tone that unsettled me, as if I had trespassed on sacred ground. In the following months, her disapproval became more obvious. She commented on my job, a freelance designer. "That doesn't sound stable." She criticized the apartment Daniel and I picked together, too small for a future. Every word was a small cut, but I smiled through them, believing I could win her over if I just tried hard enough. Then came the wedding planning. She wanted control of everything, the guest list, the decorations, even the food. Daniel, caught between us, would only say, "She means well, Elena, she's just protective," so I bit my tongue again and again, because love sometimes demands silence. But the only thing I refused to surrender was my wedding dress. It was the heart of my dream, handcrafted by my late grandmother before she passed away. Ivory silk, soft lace sleeves, and tiny pearls hand, sewn with love. Each thread carried a story, her story, my mother's story, mine. When Margaret saw it for the first time, her lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You think lace can make you worthy of my son?" she asked, her voice low, cold. I remember clutching the dress protectively, my throat tightening. "It's not about worth," I whispered. "It's about love." She turned away with a faint scoff. "We'll see." I didn't realize it then, but that single sentence carried a promise, a cruel, burning promise, that my perfect beginning was already being rewritten. And when fire came for the ivory dress, I would remember her words like a curse whispered into silk. The morning of my wedding dawned golden and serene, the kind of morning poets write about and dreamers hope for. The sun poured gently through my window, casting warm stripes across the white roses Daniel had sent the night before. "Can't wait to see you walk down the aisle." His note read, the last words I would ever believe from him. Laughter filled the house as my bridesmaids fluttered about, curling hair, painting nails, humming love songs. My mother busied herself with breakfast, her joy bubbling over in small, happy tears. For a few fleeting hours, I felt suspended in a world made of silk and sunlight. I thought nothing could touch the peace I'd built, but peace is fragile. Sometimes it only takes a single spark to destroy it. Around mid-morning, as I sat before the mirror while my friend pinned my veil, I heard someone shout from the hallway. The laughter stopped, the air shifted. Then my cousin Sarah burst into the room, her face pale, her breath uneven. "Elena, your dress, it's gone." At first, I didn't understand. "Gone," I repeated dumbly, blinking as if the word were foreign. "What do you mean gone?" "It's in the garment bag in the guest room closet." "No, it's not." her voice trembled. "You need to come, now." My heart hammered as I ran barefoot down the hallway, my curls half done, veil trailing like a ghost behind me. The smell hit me before I reached the backyard, acrid, heavy, unmistakable. Smoke, and then I saw it. The fire pit, the faint glow of dying flames, and within it, ashes. Charred lace, melted pearls, and a wisp of ivory silk curling in the heat like a final breath. My grandmother's gown, the symbol of love, heritage, and hope, burned into nothing. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My hands trembled as I reached toward the remains, the heat biting at my skin. The world tilted. I felt my knees give way. Behind me, a slow, calm voice broke the silence. "Now, maybe Daniel will think twice." I turned. She was standing there, Margaret, dressed immaculately in pale blue, a cup of tea in her hand, her expression as composed as if nothing were wrong. "Why?" I choked, the word tasting like smoke. Her eyes met mine with a cold satisfaction. "Because I won't let my son make the biggest mistake of his life. I've seen girls like you before, sweet, naive, clinging to men who deserve more. You destroyed something priceless," I whispered. She tilted her head. "It was just fabric, dear. You should thank me. I saved you both from a lifetime of regret." At that moment, Daniel arrived, confusion painted across his face. He saw the ashes, saw me, saw his mother. "What happened?" "She did." I sobbed. "She burned it." His eyes darted between us, torn. "Mom, tell me you didn't." "I did what needed to be done." She interrupted smoothly. "You'll see sense soon enough." I waited for him to defend me, to speak, to stand between love and cruelty, but all he said quietly was, "Maybe it's a sign." The words cut deeper than fire ever could. That afternoon there was no wedding, no music, no vows, only silence and smoke. I left the house before sunset, walking away from the ashes that had once been my dream. And as I looked back one last time, I realized something. Sometimes the flames don't just burn dresses. They burn illusions too. The Alina who left that burning backyard was not the same woman who returned to herself months later. For weeks after the wedding, that never was. I couldn't bear to see mirrors. They only reflected someone I didn't recognize. I'd wake in the middle of the night, smelling phantom smoke, my heart pounding, my hands reaching for a dress that no longer existed. Every thread of my old life had been scorched, but pain has a strange way of rebuilding you quietly, secretly, stubbornly. I moved to a small coastal town, far from the whispers and pity of people who once knew me as the girl whose wedding burned down. The air there was different, saltier, freer. I rented a little space above a cafe, its windows overlooking the sea. In that tiny room, surrounded by scraps of fabric and the hum of my sewing machine, I began to breathe again. One night, while mending an old gown, I realized that my hands had stopped shaking. My tears had dried without my noticing. The act of creating, of stitching, cutting, shaping beauty out of ruin became my therapy. It was then that I decided to open a small boutique. I called it Ember and Lace, a reminder that even from ashes, something elegant can be born. At first, it was modest, a few mannequins, a rack of second-hand gowns, a sign painted by hand. But slowly word spread. Brides who couldn't afford grand designer labels came to me with hope in their eyes and limited savings in their purses. I made it my mission to give them what I had lost, the chance to feel beautiful on the most sacred day of their lives. Each dress I made told a story of resilience. Each stitch whispered, "You are enough." With every smile, with every tearful thank you, I healed a little more. My boutique filled with laughter again, not the nervous laughter of a woman pretending to be okay, but the kind that comes from peace. Sometimes I heard whispers from my old city. Daniel never married. Rumors said his mother's control destroyed every relationship he tried to build. A part of me pitied him, the boy who had once held my heart but never had the courage to protect it. But pity was all I felt. Love, like my old dress, had burned away. Then one crisp autumn afternoon, the bell above my boutique door chimed, and I looked up from my sketches. My breath caught Margaret, older now her once. Perfect hair streaked with gray, her elegance dimmed by time. She didn't recognize me at first. Her tone was brisk, businesslike. "I heard you're the best designer in the region," she said. "My son's getting married and his fiancé needs a custom gown." For a moment, I just looked at her, the woman who had set fire to my world, standing unknowingly inside the one I'd built from its ashes. My lips curved into a calm smile. "Of course," I said softly, "I'd be honored to design it." And in that quiet moment, I realized something profound. Revenge doesn't always come with flames. Sometimes it comes dressed in grace. Margaret's visits to my boutique became a strange rhythm in my weeks. She came every few days, always punctual, always composed, with her notepad of opinions and her sharp tongue softened by age. At first, she didn't recognize who I was, perhaps because time had reshaped me. My hair was shorter, my voice steadier, my eyes no longer carried the weight of needing approval. I had become a woman she could not control. It was during our second meeting, as I showed her sketches of silk gowns and embroidered lace, that realization dawned on her. She froze mid-sentence, the color draining from her face. Her eyes flicked to the small silver ring on my finger, my grandmother's ring, the one she'd seen on my hand the day she burned my dress. "Elena," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yes," I said quietly, not hiding the faint smile that curved my lips. "It's me." For a long moment, silence stretched between us. The only sound was the rustle of fabric. I could almost hear her heart pounding beneath that impeccable blouse. She stammered, "I didn't know. I thought you left." "I did," I said, "but I built something beautiful from what you destroyed." Her lips trembled, the weight of guilt flickering in her eyes for the first time. "You must hate me," she said, barely meeting my gaze. I looked at the sketches in my hands, the lines flowing like calm rivers. "I did," I admitted softly, "but hate burns and I've had enough of fire." She didn't reply. Perhaps there were no words strong enough to undo what she had done. Still, I took the commission, not out of kindness nor out of spite, but because I wanted her to see what true strength looked like, not vengeance, but grace. Over the next few weeks, I poured my heart into the gown for Daniel's fiancé. It was breathtaking, layers of silk cascading like moonlight, tiny hand, sewn pearls glinting like morning dew. Every stitch felt like closure, a gentle reclamation of what she had stolen from me. When the dress was finished, Margaret stood before it with trembling hands. "It's beautiful," she murmured. "You've outdone yourself." "Thank you," I said simply. I always do my best work when something once burned. The day of the wedding, I went to deliver the gown personally. The venue was grand, all white roses and crystal chandeliers. When Daniel saw me standing there, holding the dress, his breath caught. For a heartbeat, neither of us spoke. His eyes were full of something I couldn't name, regret, perhaps, or the weight of everything left unsaid. "Elena," he started, but I stopped him with a small, polite smile. "Congratulations, Daniel," I said softly. "She's lucky to have you." And with that, I turned away. I saw Margaret watching me from across the hall, her expression unreadable. Maybe shame, maybe admiration, but I knew one thing for certain. She finally understood that her fire had forged me, not broken me. Outside, as I stepped into the sunlight, I whispered to myself, "You burned my dress, Margaret, but you couldn't burn my destiny." The wind carried the words away like ashes scattered over the sea, free, weightless, gone. And for the first time, I felt whole.